I'm Anne-Marie from brambleberry.com, and today I'm here to show you a perfect holiday cold process recipe. This technique uses a linear swirl and the Brambleberry horizontal divider bars, which gets a perfect drag down the side to make those swirls really pop. We're using one of Brambleberry's fragrances for the holiday collection, the Elderberry and Evergreen, which is a perfect walk through an alpine forest. It really does smell like you're walking through fresh woods with some beautiful dark red berries. So in order to celebrate that, we went with the gold bursting beads for the top, a little bit of the dark green mica, and some of the ultra gold sparkle mica, plus our Brambleberry red mica. That creates this beautiful holiday escape. One thing about this linear swirl is you do kind of want to give it a little bit of time to work with it, so this fragrance does behave really well, doesn't accelerate trace. We're going to go ahead and use the Brambleberry Swirl Quick Mix because, well, it's designed specifically for swirling soap. Let's get started. All right, it's time to get started. I'm going to make sure that I'm fully suited up for safety. Kids and pets are not anywhere around. I have a solid hour to work, and I've got my gloves on and my goggles on. Here's my pre-mixed lye with a little bit of sodium lactate in there and my swirl mix. And then one more thing to make sure I am fully ready for this is to ensure that my mold is put together. So you want your dividers to be ready and sitting off to the side so that when you are ready to start pouring and placing your dividers, it is all ready to go. I've pre-mixed my colorants over here in a little bit of lightweight oil. I've pre-measured my fragrance, and let's get started. So now I'm just going to pour my lye water gently down the shaft of my stick blender to help prevent little air bubbles, and then I'm going to give this a very gentle stir before turning on my stick blender. When you're working with cold process soap, it's important that you keep moving your stick blender around when you are stick blending to ensure that you don't just end up with one big clump of soap in the middle, and make sure that you give your soap a good stick blend lots of places. We're going for a very thin swirl, and then I'm going to separate this into 3 containers. This trace is the most thin I would ever do for a separation. I can tell though it's not fully traced because watch this. There's a little bit of white that comes in, just a barest color change. That's how I know that this trace wasn't quite fully there. I'm gonna give it one more stick blend, and then I'm separating this into all 3 containers. And then I can keep giving this to trace and emulsifying it as needed. I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball this now, and now is when we want to start working more quickly. So I'm going to pour into 3, and I can see a little bit of graininess in my soap, which tells me that we are definitely at the very thinnest trace that we possibly want to be. This will continue to thicken as I add color, and I can see that I need to eyeball just a little bit differently. If you really care all that much, you can weigh your layers. I don't, because in this particular recipe, having contrasting colors in sort of equal amounts is the most important thing. So now I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of each of these colors dispersed, and I can see my titanium dioxide has already fell to the bottom just a little bit, so I'm going to end up giving that a little bit of a stick blend. And then I'm going to also do just a little bit of Gold Ultra Sparkle in both of my green and my red, just for a little bit of holiday pop. I'm going to eyeball it just a little bit, just a little holiday pop. Woo, that's a lot of holiday pop. And then I am going to need to stick blend my titanium dioxide in just a minute, but first I'm just going to give it a really quick stir. Give this one a really quick stir. Ooh, that is looking gorgeous. I just love the look of wet soap with a little bit of sparkles in. You notice I'm using the exact same mixer for all this, and that's because when you go from light to dark, you can use the same one, but I would never want to put this green one back in the white. So now, going to quickly add my fragrance, and I'm just going to eyeball it. Stick blend that in. Remember, I had to stick blend in my white. I'm going to add it to my red. Stick blend that in. And again, this is a really well-behaving fragrance. You would never want to stick blend a fragrance that wasn't a well-behaved fragrance. And you notice the colors change just a little bit when I stick blended. That is because we got everything mixed in perfectly. So now I'm going to get ready to do my linear swirl. So now when you're in the bottom of this, you can kind of go back and forth. You can do S curves. The key is that you change colors out often, and it really becomes much more important, the seriousness of these pours, the further you get to the top, because you're going to need your layers to be able to really show that linear swirl. And now that we're starting to get a little bit lower and slower, I'm going to just pour like more seriously. Instead of those giant S curves, I'm going to pour in more of a controlled fashion. You'll notice we're getting that gorgeous feathering, and that is really going to look beautiful when those dividers are drugged down. You'll notice that some of my color is starting to barely stay on the top, which is great. That will help the swirl in the end once the color starts staying just a little bit more at the top. And so the lower you pour and the slower you pour, the more the color will stay. And now we're really thanking our fragrance gods for this fragrance that is really giving us so much time to work with it, because how beautiful are we getting this pour? It is just fantastic, and we've had such a long time to work with it. And now these thin trailings are staying perfectly on the surface, which is going to give us exactly the kind of swirl we're looking for. So now I'm going to start really paying attention to the placement of my trailings. And I'm going to try really hard to get contrasting trailings, especially because I'm getting near the end. So when I think about where I'm going to put my white stripes, it's to get the actual striping in. So I want stripes, and I really want a lot of contrast. So that looks wonderful. Now I'm going to do one red stripe in between here. And now I'm just going to kind of look at this and decide, like, is there any place else that needs a little bit more contrast with my very last little bit of red? And I'm looking at this. I have a little bit left of everything. Remember, contrast is really where you get your swirl look. So be thinking, like, what do I need to do to get the most contrast here? So I'm going to do one more thing of red there, one more green down the middle. Then I'm going to shake this out and call it good and get ready to do my linear swirl. Okay, here we go. Now I'm just going to kind of shake this out. And of course, now that I'm here, I'm like, is there enough white there? There's not enough. I'm going to do one more here. There we go. And then it's time to pick your swirling tool. In this case, I'm going to be using a pretty thick kind of paintbrush end. A lot of people like to use a slightly thinner hair pick. This is going to produce a really dramatic swirl. So I'm just going all the way to the bottom and then all the way to the sides. My tool is sitting on the bottom of the mold. I'm gently gliding. I am not picking it up in between. And you might be tempted to stop right here because this is a gorgeous swirl and you would be just fine. In this case, I'm going to go all the way down once and then back, and all the way down and then back. And this is a mesmerizing process that can really get out of hand, because of course now that I've done this, I want to do loop-de-loops and all the things. I will not be doing that because I have some soaping self-control, but it's tough. Now I take my dividers. It's key that you hold them in from the sides, because otherwise you can drop one of them in, which is not any good. Whee! There we go. Push down. You'll notice these are starting to bulge on top, which is exactly what you want. Oh, those are beautiful. The final touch is to take a little bit of our gold bursting beads and just put them in the sides of the soap. And as long as your soap is wet enough, these will stay beautifully. So just toss them into the sides of each bar of soap. Little tiny accent Of course, they come off in the first washing, but for the initial wow factor, that's exactly what people are gonna see and go, wow, that reminds me so much of holidays. Then finally, once this is done, I have a gel pad that I will be putting this on so I can force my soap through gel phase, just because I really want those colors to pop, and I really like the shine that I get when I use when I have a little bit of a hotter soap. So I'm gonna put this on a gel pad, I'm gonna gel phase it, but before I do that, I'm gonna spray it with 99% rubbing alcohol to try and minimize any sort of soda ash. My ability to get rid of soda ash now that I've got my beautiful gold bursting beads is a little bit diminished, so I wanna really prevent that. So I'm gonna spray with 99% rubbing alcohol and then put onto my heat pad. All right, now it's time to unmold this soap. I'm hoping, because of the sodium lactate, that it comes out easily. And I love that we have it in a silicone liner, so that'll make it easy. Just gonna turn it over, gently do that. Whew. And then going to peel gently away from the sides. It's a little fresh, not gonna lie. It's gonna be fine though. And peel gently away from the sides. The gold beads are staying beautifully on top, which is so nice. Now I'm just going to gently push on the back and wait for that airlock. The thing you don't want to do, especially when you have such a gorgeous design on back, is accidentally rip your soap. So gentle does it. If you sense any hesitation on the soap's part to come out, do not push it. You don't want to rip this gorgeous design. So this is just a little bit soft, which makes a lot of sense because the batch was made yesterday. I would generally recommend waiting a few days before doing this, but that is okay. So there's a couple ways you can now get this soap off. Since it's soft enough, I'm gonna wanna push down. So I'm gonna actually glove up or get some wax paper so that I don't dent or fingerprint my soap. So I went ahead and gloved up just because I wanna try and keep the fingerprints to a minimum on this. This is a little bit of a balancing act, so you just push down gently and then you slide. If you end up doing something kind of foolish, like pulling, you will rip the entire batch of soap kind of, and then you don't have a really nice side. And the whole beautiful thing about these divider molds is how they drag those beautiful swirls down. So you do want to keep those really pristine. So just push down, be gentle, and then you'll have your perfect bar of soap as opposed to pulling. So now I'm going to switch to the other side, and that one came out a lot easier. Thank you, sodium lactate. This swirl is looking beautiful. I am really loving how it just drug down on the sides, and on top it is also absolutely appealing in that pattern that it made. The red mica and the dark green mica really are working together to give me those perfect winter holiday vibes without being really, really overbearing. And I can't wait to see this middle one. This middle piece is going to be gorgeous. One of the things I like about this particular mold is just how nicely these bars fit in the hand. They fit beautifully in the hand. Whew. And the last piece is out, and it is gorgeous. I love it. The gold bursting beads, it's so shiny, and it is the perfect size in the hand. So as with all cold process soap, just wait 3 to 6 weeks before you use it or give it away. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and until next time, happy soaping.